They are the most powerful animal in the African jungle, growing as large as 600 pounds. The male lowland silverback gorilla has the strength of 8 large men, ranks among the smartest animals on Earth, and fiercely protects his territory. The chimpanzee reigns as the most cunning of the great apes. These meat eaters are known to use both strategy and weapons to kill prey. How did one zoo create a free-range habitat for 2 of the world's most dangerous and intelligent primates in an urban environment without bars? Find out on Gorilla Island at the zoo in Gulf Breeze, Florida. In 1994, Gulf Breeze Zoo founder and African wildlife expert Pat Quinn set out to create an open habitat where wild animals could roam free. This exhibit would demonstrate his passion and philosophy for the preservation of Africa's wildlife. Only this ultimate zoo exhibit wasn't your typical high-tech enclosure. Instead, it was quite the opposite. Designed to look like an African preserve, it was a massive 30-acre environment for 4 lowland gorillas, 4 chimpanzees, and numerous species of hoofed antelope and deer. His goal was to create a place where these animals could function, just like in the wild.
I'm proud of it because it gives the opportunity for a lot of people who are not fortunate enough to go to Africa. I've been there 54 times. To go to Africa and see elephants, and see gorillas, and see these giraffes and these major vertebrates.
The centerpiece of this vision was a habitat for the gorillas and chimpanzees facing extinction across Central Africa.
They're cutting the forest in the Congo, and they're also killing these animals and selling the meat commercially. And that commercial killing of animals is devastating, particularly with habitat destruction.
For Quinn, his vision was to have the exhibit look like an authentic rustic African preserve. So any type of caging or barrier would be contrary to everything he was trying to achieve.
Out here is a great enrichment situation because they see snakes, they see turtles, egrets. It gives these animals a very large space with a lot going on, an opportunity to move around a lot, get out of each other's way when they feel like they don't want to see somebody. There's a big silverback coming out of the bushes looking for us. He's watching us. He's very intent on what we're doing.
But giving the run of the exhibit to an animal as powerful as the lowland gorilla or as crafty as the chimpanzee presented a massive challenge. Preventing escape and mayhem would be vital for the safety of both visitors and the surrounding city. Quinn's solution was to surround 2 1.5-acre habitats with a natural barrier, water, thus creating standalone islands. One for what would become a tribe of 4 lowland gorillas, and the other for 4 chimpanzees. Because of their muscle density, the great apes cannot swim. Although a few enjoy wading by the bank, the 10-foot deep channel is an uncrossable moat. Each of these islands offers a preserve-sized setting with a variety of terrain for the apes to flourish on, and all with limited interference from the public or even the keepers. For Quinn, the open savanna and ape islands were more of a preserve than an actual exhibit. So here, he designed the visitor viewing to be limited to one boardwalk vista that would keep the intrusion to a minimum, while still offering an excellent vantage point to observe the apes. Still, even when the guests or keepers get this close, it is not uncommon for the gorillas to go on the defensive and actually warn the intruders away.
But us just staring at him is a threat to him, so that's why he's showing us his stance and pursing his lips, and he won't look right at us. The way his arms are, and his lips are pursed, and he won't look you in the eyes, we're kind of challenging him right now.
In the wild, the gorilla would charge the intruder, giving him no choice but to make a quick exit. And it's the same reason why here, even the keepers must keep their distance and work on their forward pass. To provide enrichment and activities on the islands, they frequently throw hollowed-out bamboo, stuffed with raisins, so the chimps must work for their snacks. But while keepers are far too wise to enter the ape's domain, it's a whole different story when it comes to the antelope and deer. Shortly after the opening of Chimp and Gorilla Islands, the zoo was pleasantly surprised to find animals from the rest of the preserve curious about all the attention and activities taking place on the island. Coming up, the powerful apes go on the defensive, with some of the savanna animals cross the channel and enter their island domain. Will they make it back in one piece? Find out next on Ultimate Zoo. At the zoo in Gulf Breeze, Florida, founder Pat Quinn has taken on the Herculean task of creating a habitat where powerful and dangerous lowland gorillas and highly intelligent chimpanzees can roam free without the benefit of any visible barriers. He was determined to go beyond the bounds of a traditional zoo and create something few zoos could. The result would be an actual 30-acre African wildlife preserve for apes, livestock, and other animals. For the chimpanzees and lowland gorillas, Quinn boldly gave each species the run of their own acre-and-a-half island. With the visitor viewing kept to a single outpost, each island allowed the gorillas and chimps to roam in freedom across the wide-open habitat, with only moats used to keep them contained, controlling it as their own, just as they would in the wild. From their daily migration to warding off any threats, it in fact developed into such a natural environment that even animals native to the region like snakes, turtles, and geese also put up shop. Then, shortly after the islands opened, keepers witnessed a fascinating occurrence. It started when a few intrepid members of the hoofed herds from the other part of the preserve began swimming in the moats around the beautiful new islands. That is, until one day, they did the unthinkable. Led by a Sitatunga, an antelope like this one, they made their way up onto the Chimp's Island. This was an unprecedented mixture of species that had never come into contact with each other before. The chimps are extremely territorial and made it clear they didn't like visitors. So, the antelope simply made their way to the next island to try their luck with the gorillas. In the wild, gorillas never encounter antelope. Most assume that the quarter-ton silverbacks would make short work of a Sitatunga.
They were afraid to go over there initially. They waited a while, and after a while they started trickling over, and once went over there, the others would see it and say, well, maybe it's safe, and they began to get over there to get more comfortable.
But confronted with the other species, the lowland gorillas turned out to be far more accommodating than the smaller chimps. After this initial conflict, the gorillas learned to coexist and even play with the visiting herds.
The gorillas are very peaceful. They don't usually mind them coming on and eating the food. There has been occasions where Mwelu has even petted a Sitatunga, just patted him on the head while I was there.
While the gorillas' interaction with the new arrivals demonstrated to visitors the gentler side of these brutes, their peaceful approach actually created more challenges for the Gulf Breeze staff.
We actually had the Sitatungas started having their babies on Gorilla Island, but the gorilla Babuka, our young silverback, he would go up and pick up the Sitatunga and kind of walk away with them. So we had to start pulling the babies. They weren't hurting them, but they just were trying to mother them, and they can't nurse them or anything. So we had to start pulling the babies for that reason. But our adult male Sitatunga and our adult silverback Mwelu had a pretty good relationship to where they would just eat right next to each other. They would actually nap right next to each other.
Like a true preserve, Gorilla and Chimp Islands is an environment created totally for the apes and not for visitor interaction. Still, by allowing the great apes to control their own destiny, it demonstrates for the public how well animals can integrate with their environment.
We're very pleased to be able to provide this kind of habitat and exhibit for these wonderful animals. And one of the things that pleases all of us is the reaction of people who come here from other places around the world and love this wildlife preserve here and love seeing these animals out and love to see chimpanzees sitting 60, 70 feet in the air on top of a tree overlooking people. It's really neat.
Created in the spirit of an African preserve, Gulf Breeze's Chimp and Gorilla Islands were designed to help in the fight against the species threat of extinction. And with it, they also created an experience that can only be fostered by nature. For its insights into these highly complex animals, and an ape exhibit like no other on the planet, the unique accomplishments of the zoo at Gulf Breeze earns Chimp and Gorilla Islands a spot in the ultimate zoo.